A good Nerv Shabbos, Parshas Shemos. Before we say our Dvar Torah, first of all, a tremendous mazel tov to the Goldmeyer and Deitch families on the upcoming marriage of Gary and Danielle this coming Monday night, Bez Hashem. And we'd like to thank the families for sponsoring a Grab and Go Kiddush this Shabbos in Shul. And also, I would like to give a tremendous thank you to Reb Chaim and Pat Fogel for sponsoring Shalosh Shudas this week virtually in loving memory of Pat's brother, Mitchell Rosenfeld ben Zion Zindel ben Zachariah Leib. May his neshama have an aliyah from your tzedakah, from your lives, and from our Dvar Torah, which we'll share here this afternoon. I want to share this incredible story brought down from Rav Mordechai Druk in the name of Reb Leib Bakst. A Dover Nifla, an incredible story. I've said this story before, worthwhile repeating how it relates to this week's Parsha. Rashi in Sefer Bereshis, Parak Aleph, Pasuk Tes Zayin, tells us that originally the sun and the moon were created equal until the moon complained that there can't be two kings, and therefore the moon was demoted, and it was minimized. And after Hashem makes the moon, after the moon is minimized, what happens? Hashem created another entity to pacify the moon and keep it company. What was it? The stars. So the stars were created for the sole purpose of keeping the moon company in the sky. Okay. Listen to this incredible story that took place with one of the leaders of our previous generation, Reb Aaron Bakst, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. There was a tremendous tzaddik whose name was Reb Shraga Feivel Frank. He was very wealthy, and before he passed away, Reb Shraga Feivel instructed his wife to search out. They had 3 daughters. She should search out for the most incredible yeshiva boys in the entire world. And Reb Shraga Feivel Frank passed away, and his wife followed his instructions, and their 3 daughters, Taka, ended up marrying 3 future Gedolei Yisrael, Reb Isser Zalman Meltzer, Reb Moshe Mordechai Epstein, and Reb Baruch Yeshua Horowitz. And the wife of Reb Moshe Mordechai Epstein had been engaged beforehand to Reb Aaron Bakst, who was known throughout the yeshiva world and was greatly respected. They get engaged, and one day the young Aaron Bakst notices that his future mother-in-law was not as happy as usual. Something's bothering her. So he asks his colleague, he says, "Your mother doesn't seem as excited to see me as she usually is. What's bothering her?" And his colleague tries pushing him off, insisting everything's okay. And he realizes there's something bothering his mother-in-law until finally she tells him, "My mother promised my father before he passed away that she would marry her 3 daughters off to the 3 greatest yeshiva bacher. Somebody told my mother that Moshe Mordechai Epstein is a bigger Talmid Chacham than you. And she feels that she's not properly carrying out my father's wishes by us being engaged." So the young Reb Aaron Bakst tells his Kala, if she agrees to call off the engagement, it's worthwhile to do so, to not cause tsar, to not cause pain to a widow. And that's what happened. They called off the shidduch. That's not the story. Listen to this. Years later, when the Alter of Slabodka, Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, was looking for a new Rashiva of Slabodka, the premier yeshiva at that time, he asked Reb Aaron Bakst to take the job. Opportunity of a lifetime. Greatest yeshiva. And Reb Aaron Bakst declined. And the Alter kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and Reb Aaron declined. Finally, the Alter says, "I'm your Rebbe, I demand a reason why you're not accepting this position." And Reb Aaron Bakst felt he had no choice, and he tells the Alter of Slabodka, he says, "If I take the job of Rosh Yeshiva, I will cause anguish to the widow of Reb Shraga Feivel. She's still alive, and if she would find out that I became the Rosh Yeshiva of Slabodka and not Reb Moshe Mordechai Epstein, she's going to be bitzar, she's going to have pain. Instead, please offer the position to Reb Moshe Mordechai," and that's what happened. Rashi tells us in the beginning of our parsha that Klal Yisrael is beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as stars. Why? What were the stars? They were there to keep the moon company. And when do the stars shine brightest, says the Sfas Emes? Stars are always around. But when do we notice them? When it's dark. When it's dark for the rest of the world, that's when the stars shine brightest. So the stars are there in the first place, and they're beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because intrinsically they were created to be there for the moon, to be there for somebody else, and they shine brightest when others have darkness. That's the meaning of the first Rashi. Ve'ela Shmais B'nai Yisrael. Why were the B'nai Yisrael counted? Why are we counted again? Says Rashi, to teach us that Klal Yisrael is beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu like the stars. It's not this random fluffy thing. We have to know why were the stars created. When do stars shine brightest? And take that message as Yidden personally and realize we're supposed to shine brightest when it's dark for others. And realize that we're created to be in this world for others, like the stars. Have a wonderful Shabbos.